Los Angeles, October 25th, 1978. A man walks up to a payphone in the lobby of a major bank, the very same bank whose wire transfer room he walked out of 20 minutes earlier. He drops in a coin, dials a number he already knows by heart, gives a fake name, and reads off a 6-digit code he memorized from a slip of paper nobody thought to lock away. 10 minutes later, $10,200,000, worth more than $50 million today, leaves the bank's account, headed for a bank in Switzerland he had already set up weeks in advance. No gun, no mask, no alarm ever goes off. By the time anyone at the bank realizes what happened, the money is already on its way to becoming diamonds, and the man who took it walks out through the same front door he walked in through. Just another face nobody thinks twice about. The consultant. Stanley Rifkin is 32 years old, balding and forgettable in exactly the way a con man wants to be. He lives alone in a modest apartment in Los Angeles' San Fernando Valley and works as a computer and security consultant, the kind of job that builds access badges and quiet trust instead of headlines. Newspapers that later cover his case struggle to make him sound dangerous and mostly land on the same phrase, a mild-mannered computer wizard. That mismatch between the man and what he is about to do is exactly the point. In 1978, electronic wire transfers are still a fairly new way for banks to move enormous sums of money, and the systems built to protect them lean less on technology than on habit and trust. Rifkin's firm lands a contract with Security Pacific National Bank, one of the largest banks in the country, to help design a backup system for Operations Unit 1, the wire room on the bank's D level, where clerks move tens of millions of dollars a day between accounts around the world. Nobody vets him for this job any harder than they would vet a plumber. He gets a badge, he gets access, and over months of visits he becomes a familiar face, someone the clerks nod to and chat with instead of question. The code. On the morning of October 25th, Rifkin walks into the wire room he has visited a dozen times before, exchanges small talk with clerks who already know his face, and glances at a slip of paper taped up near the terminals. It is the day's security code, the one thing standing between anyone with a telephone and tens of millions of dollars. It is written down in plain sight because typing it in wrong too many times locks the whole system, and nobody on staff wants that headache. Rifkin does not touch the paper. He does not photograph it. He simply reads it once, thanks a clerk for something unrelated, and walks out. Notice what he actually needed to set up the largest bank theft in American history to that date. Not a weapon, and not a single line of code broken into a computer. Just a badge that already worked, a face nobody questioned, and a memory good enough to hold 6 digits for the length of an elevator ride. The call. Rifkin does not leave the building to make his move. He walks down to a payphone in the bank's own lobby, drops in a coin, and dials the wire room directly in the middle of a normal business day. "Hi, this is Mike Hansen, in the international department," he says, giving an office number 286, close enough to a real employee's extension to pass without a second thought. The clerk on the line asks for the office callback number, then the security code. Rifkin does not hesitate. 4789, he answers, and keeps talking. $10,200,000, exactly. Wired to the Irving Trust Company in New York, for credit of the Walshad Handels Bank of Zurich. It is a real Swiss bank, and in the middle of the Cold War, it happens to be owned by the Soviet state, an irony Rifkin never once mentions to the clerk on the other end of the line. The clerk reads the numbers back to confirm. Nothing about Rifkin's voice, his details, or his tone gives anyone on the line a reason to pause, and the transfer goes through before lunch, no different on paper from thousands of routine wires the bank processes every single day. The diamonds. The money does not sit in Switzerland for long. Weeks before he ever memorized a single digit of that code, Rifkin had already arranged to buy diamonds through a Soviet state trading agency, using a middleman dealer to place the order so his own name never touches the paperwork. The moment the transfer lands, roughly $8 million of it converts straight into rough diamonds, over 43,000 carats of them, more than 8 kilograms of stone, bought and waiting. Rifkin flies out himself to play courier, collects the stones, and packs them into his own checked luggage for the flight home, clearing customs like any other tired business traveler with nothing to declare that raises an eyebrow. Notice the order he did all of this in. The diamond deal was arranged before he ever stole a single dollar. This was never a crime of opportunity that got out of hand. It was a plan built backward from the ending he already wanted. The lawyer. For nearly a week, Security Pacific has no idea $10,200,000 is even missing. The bank does not even catch on by itself. It takes a call from federal officials before anyone at Security Pacific realizes the largest bank theft in the country's history already happened inside their own building. Rifkin barely starts cashing in. He sells a small portion of the stones to a single buyer in Beverly Hills for $12,000 and still has most of an $8 million diamond haul sitting untouched. This is the moment a smarter criminal disappears for good. Instead, Rifkin calls his own former attorney, Paul O'Brien, with an offer. He wants to hand the diamonds back to the bank he just robbed in exchange for a paid contract, fixing the exact security hole he had just personally proven existed. Notice what that request actually reveals. He is not asking to quietly keep what is left and vanish. He is asking his own victim to hire him. O'Brien recognizes his former client's face from a news report about the theft and calls the FBI. Agents arrange a meeting to draw Rifkin out into the open, and on the night of November 5th, they find him hiding in the closet of a Carlsbad apartment. He raises his hands and surrenders without a fight, and next to him, agents recover a suitcase holding the leftover cash along with roughly 40 packets of diamonds, most of the haul still intact. Again. Rifkin makes bail in December, released on $200,000 while he awaits trial. Within weeks, he is already plotting a second heist, an almost identical wire transfer scheme aimed at Union Bank of Los Angeles, this time with a new partner, Patricia Ferguson, hoping to steal enough, somewhere between $1 million and $50 million, to fund leaving the country for good. Notice that he is not caught planning to vanish quietly with what he already has left over from the first job. He is caught trying to run the exact same con a second time against a different bank, while out on bail for the first one. Federal agents arrest him again on February 13, 1979, before a single dollar moves. The bill. In March 1979, Rifkin pleads guilty to both schemes and is sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, at the time the harshest sentence ever handed down in the country for a nonviolent bank fraud. He serves about 3 years before his release to a halfway house in 1982. Even there, his instincts do not change. Rifkin sues Esquire magazine for $2 million over a profile he dislikes and takes a job at a company owned by Patricia Ferguson, the very woman he had once tried to flee the country with. Parole officials eventually order him to stay away from her entirely. So what actually beat Stanley Rifkin in the end? It was not a security system, and it was not FBI technology. It was his own refusal to stop while he was ahead, not once, but twice in a row. Tell us in the comments what you think really pulled him back for round 2, and subscribe if a man undone by nothing but his own nerve is exactly your kind of case.